Okay, so in the first section, or the first video, we went and created all this stuff here, the view controller, some storyboard stuff, some data, but now it wants us to add the network code. This is in the guided project restaurant from Apple's App Development with Swift. Create a new Swift file called MenuController.swift. Okay, so let's create a new Swift file called MenuController and do something like this in it. So it's got a controller, so I'm going to put it in the controllers up here. File, new, file, Swift file. They want to be called MenuController. Excuse me. All right, and let's just do what the book says, which is I'm going to paste this code in here, and they put the little copy protection there, which is fun. Okay, so we got this thing. It's a class, I guess, and we're calling it MenuController. Base URL, and the URL it's giving us is the URL of our server, our local server there, which is pretty cool. It's got the bang operator at the end here, so that means that if this URL is wrong, your app will crash. I guess it'd probably crash if the server's not running too. You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to create a do try statement instead of, or just checking to see if it exists before continuing, but far be it from the book to actually follow its own rules. Let's see. So we want to be able to get information from the server, right? This is a fancy function they want you to do here. It's a completion closure. Closure. Alright, so I assume we want to put that function inside of this class here, right? And we gotta put some stuff in the function, right? It can't just return nothing there. It can't do nothing. It's a function, it should be doing something. Let's open the book again and see what it wants. So we're going to be able to fetch the items, submit the order, fetch the categories, submit the order, fetch the menu items, fetch the categories. There's a lot of code here, guys. Okay, let me get to work and type this all up, and then you can see the final result and pause it and copy it. I might even put a link to some of this in the description for this, because I don't like when you just have to copy and paste a bunch of code. I mean, if you're making this on your own, you probably have to do all these same things, but you'd have to come up with it on your own. So basically, we want to load all the data in and be able to submit orders and stuff. So let me just get to work here, and you guys can just reap the rewards. Just a couple notes while I'm working on this code here. I changed the import to import UI kit instead of import foundation because we have some UI images to import. And it looks like the way we set up our menu items, I might need to mess with that a little bit. Whew. Okay, so now that we've got all this code typed in, so that's from pages, so started here, page 919, all the way through 920 frozen. Now, I'm going to save you some time, and I'm going to copy all this we put in here into a link for you to take a look and copy using your own app. But essentially, we've got the menu controller. We've got a function for fetching categories, fetching menu items, fetching images, submitting order, and you know, this is a lot of work. And I did alter it just a little bit with the do try catch here to decode the menu item. So look really closely through this and follow in the book, and the book tells you how to do some of this stuff. It wasn't very clear at points, so but that is in pages 919 through 920 something, I think. All right, let's move on. All right, after we've parsed all that data and done all that icky stuff, let's go to part 5, the categories section. So the first request in your workflow is display the menu categories. Open the storyboard, find the category table view controller, and let's think. Okay, select the prototype cell, open the attributes inspector. You just need to display a string. So set the style to basic. Okay, use the category cell identifier for the identifier. Okay, so it wants us to use this string here, category cell identifier for the identifier, and set the accessory to disclosure. Okay, let's just do what it says here. Instead of me just reading it, let's do it. So clicking main storyboard here, we're going to load, and then we're going to find the very first cell up here. So that's this one here. I'm going to select that one. And what they're saying is they want you to make it basic. Then they want you to use the category cell identifier. So in this identifier here, paste category cell identifier. And they want the accessory to be a disclosure. So the accessory is down here. They want it to be disclosure. That just basically that just puts this little caret, the arrow here. I don't know if you saw that. All that's doing is putting this little at the end there. So you can tell if you're a user that you can click on this and it'll go somewhere else. All right, let's open up the category table view controller and see what we got here. What I've done is I made a variable in a category table view controller, and the variable is going to store an array of strings basically, and we'll call it categories. We could, like in the future, maybe make this more readable by making an array of categories instead of an array of strings, but whatever. Just do it like that for now. All right, so the trick here is we got to load those categories in from the data. And so what we're doing is we're accessing the menu controller. There's a shared thing in the menu controller. It's really interesting, so check this out. In the menu controller, there's something called shared. And this is like a static variable or static property called shared, and it instantiates, it like creates a menu controller. It's a pretty interesting way to do it. Some people do it that way. And so then you'll have access to do all the things inside of here. So let's take a look at that again. Then we got a little if statement here, and that's just checking to see if the categories exist, then update the user interface. See, if the categories exist, then update the user interface. And the update UI is the function down here that's called with those same categories. And we put the dispatch queue in here because, well, anytime you're updating the screen on data that may or may not exist, and it might take a moment for that data to load, you want to put it in the main asynchronous queue. It's basically so that when you're using the app, your app doesn't freeze up like while it's loading the data. You ever have an app do that where like you're trying to do something and the app freezes while it's loading? Well, if you do it this way, then the user interface isn't affected by the data loading in the background. That's fancy schmancy. And then we're assigning the categories to what we loaded in there, and then we're reloading the table view. Now, we got to do something with these categories we loaded, so we're going to return the count to the number of rows. So the number of rows will be equal to the number of categories. Then down here, we're creating a new cell. This is actually stuff that we've done before in other chapters. So not that it would be familiar because like we haven't done it like 5-6 times yet, but this isn't like, this part isn't new stuff. This category cell identifier, don't forget to, you got to go over to the storyboard and make sure that the let's see, where is it? Oh, this one. This cell has that same text up here, right? And it does, okay. So that's just identifying this specific cell, and it's saying configure that cell. And in fact, it actually is saying configure that cell. I mean, this is kind of, honestly, this is like a little confusing for me, right? This is dumb. I'm going to get rid of this. This is stupid. Why make it confusing like that? There. I mean, why do we have to create a separate function to do that? I don't think that's important. I think just do it in here. Or you can leave it the way it was. That's fine. Okay, let's try and run this and see if it might work. Simulator looks a little different these days. Look at that stuff. A little home button up here. A rotate button. Used to have to use command arrow. Command arrow still works. That's cool. Oh, it's launching this new SE, second generation. Fancy. All right, so I'm not worried too yet. I think this is still the launch screen, the white launch screen. I think it's still loading. Not too worried. And oh my gosh, it worked. Can you believe that? I bet if we click on this, it'll move over there. Oh yeah. Wow, you guys, I think it's time to celebrate. So the next thing you see I started working on it was I couldn't stop working, was to create a segue to move the data to the next screen. So once you've got the categories loaded, then I wanted to load the menu. So if the segue identifier is equal to menu segue, so what that's saying is we have to go back into the storyboard here. So you can start typing that part out. This is a difficult assignment. Let's just keep pushing forward. So this is the identifier it's looking for, right? And so if the identifier is equal to menu segue, then it wants to throw that data to the next screen, right? So let's go back here. So if the segue identifier is equal to menu segue, it is. Then we're going to make a new table controller with the segue destination as menu table view controller. And the only thing that I haven't done is I haven't gone over to the menu table controller and I haven't put a place to put the data. So what this is doing is it's preparing the data for the next screen and then shipping or assigning the data to something over here. So we're looking for something called category over here. I mean, I'm going to assume that's going to be a string, right? Let category equal string, because the previous screen had an array of strings. Are you happy with that? You like that or no? Let's see here. Try again. I'm going to build it just to see. Sometimes the errors don't go away until you build it. Okay. It does like that, but you can't assign to a property because it's a let. So I messed that up. I'm going to click the fix button, and what that's going to do is going to change this to a var, not a let. Okay, so now we're on the next screen here, and let's just do a test here, and we're going to print category here. I know I don't want to waste anyone's time, but I do want to see that it's working and successfully passing the string to this next page here. And this is what you'll do when you make your app, is you'll have to incrementally test as you go. Okay, it didn't crash. That's good news. Click the soups button here and move this out of the way. Printed soups. Wonderful. Okay, so it's successfully passing this data to the next table view controller here. We made a list of categories, and they can select a category. With that data, we now need to... Yes. All right, so it says it wants us to instantiate the menu controller here in the menu table view controller. And it also wants us to make a list of menu items. And the category we've already made. I didn't use a bang operator. I don't think I need to, but we'll see. And then we're loading in a capitalized version of the category. Okay. And then we're fetching the menu items for that category off of our fancy menu controller. This is interesting because it's not using the shared way of fetching the items. It's instantiating it this time. Why would they do it two different ways? Maybe just to demonstrate it can be done in two different ways. I don't know. So let's just take what they've got here and run with it. Now I did miss one thing from the front screen there. I'll type this one in manually. So they're saying let menu control By the way, I'm abbreviating, which the book tells you not to do. So sorry. So let's just throw what they got in here down and see what happens. They've got this thing called menu items. They've got this thing called category. They're overriding the view did load, so let's take this view did load out of here also. Oh no, let's clean this up. Clean this up a little bit. This is what happens when you copy paste sometimes. Bippity boppity boo. here's what we did instead of putting the bang operator in there. Because like if you do what they said and throw the exclamation point, if there's no category on the screen, the exclamation point is going to crash your app. So instead, I'm going to assign it to nothing, just so that there's something there. So if there's nothing for the category, hopefully this makes sense. If there's nothing for the category, then your app won't crash. It just won't load anything. To me, that's better. Okay, so all right, so let's see what else we got here. Now we're loading these menu items, but we're not really doing anything with them yet. So we want to make sure the number of rows. Yeah, we're not using number of sections, so we can just get rid of this here. But we are using number of rows in section. The number of rows should be equal to the menu items and the count of the menu items. We probably want to use this cell for rowette here. We're going to use the reuse identifier. So we're going to make another set, like a cell basically, and configure the cell. What do they want it to be called? Menu cell identifier? Okay, fine. Here, let's do this. Let's keep things moving here, shall we? So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Basically, this is what you want here. And I'm going to take the cell identifier and throw it in the storyboard where it goes. Now we're cooking. I'm going to move my video over here so it's out of the way a little. All right, so we're going to this screen. This one's already done. Now we're going over here. Here's the second cell we're worried about. So we want that identifier to be this menu cell identifier. Let's make sure this code is connected. Menu table view controller. That's where we're working. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, moving on. They want to do some fancy stuff with the height and whatnot. Let's just hold off on that for 1 second. There's no configure. So they've got this thing called configure for itemate. We don't have that. Like if we try to build it, I bet it'll crash, right? Because this doesn't exist. Because I just copy and pasted something that doesn't exist in there. There's a whole function called configure that they want us to make. And let me show you what that's like. Look at this monster, shall we? Huh. Wow. So we're going to save this stuff here for later because this is all about images. And we're not worried so much about the images yet. First and foremost, let's just get the price in there and let's get the item name in there. So because it's a cell that's got detailed description already loaded into it, we can use the text label and the detailed text label without even like creating a custom cell. Holy moly. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to try to build and run. Let's see what we got broken here. We got something broken, probably extraneous. Yeah. So this little curly brace here is extra. That's just a part of the image thing here. My bad. Let's try again. Salads. Look at that. Italian salad. Entrees. Look at that. Soups. Oh no, we got no sandwiches. But we do have... No, we got no desserts. This place is bogus. There are a couple entrees. Spaghetti, meatballs. So if you click on these now, it goes to the next screen, but it doesn't load that data. So again, this is amazing because it's not crashing. We're actually loading our data in there. Everyone's doing great. But unfortunately, we've got more to do, which is, I mean, the app's not working yet, is it? No. So I'm going to leave this for later. I'm going to even put a comment in here. Leave for later when we have images. So we got to prepare the next screen now. Prepare the next screen for what we select in this screen. So if we look at the storyboard here, first time we click it, categories. Second time, the items in the category. The third time, the details. So this, let's see, this segue is called what? It's called menu segue. So this segue, we're probably have to name this something. Menu detail segue. Menu detail segue. Make sure you don't misspell this or it will break. So whatever you type in to the code, whatever you type in here, you want to make sure it matches. So down here, I'm going to throw the segue, the prepare segue in here. And you can just start typing prepare, and there it is, prepare for segue. Hit enter, and it'll preload all that stuff for you. And then I'm going to paste this in to save some time. But this is the text I was talking about. Make sure that this matches what you call that segue. Again, we're instantiating, we're creating a menu item detail view controller. So that's from this one here. And then we're saying, hey, load in the menu item. But unfortunately, because on that second screen, we don't have the menu item created yet, we got to make a variable, call it menu item. And what type is that? Let's just assign it to, I think it's a string. It's not a string, it's fancy. It's a menu item. Boom. And I'm going to make a menu item here. And I'm going to call it like unknown category, description, price 0, 0. The image URL is unknown. The ID is 1, we'll call it, and the name is unknown. So this way, it's the way that I like to do things, is I like to give them, I would probably have like a default like menu item before it even loads. Load the default, because like if the menu item doesn't exist, if we just do this, then again your app is going to crash, and I don't want my app crashing. I would rather it just say unknown, like or like missing data or something like that, than the app just completely crash. So this is Dave's way, but you know. And to keep things simple, what I would probably do, honestly, is I would take this. I'm sorry, I know we're getting a little sidetracked here, but I would do a static variable in here and call it default item, and create a menu item with the default stuff. Okay, so now all I gotta do is when I create in my menu view controller, I'm going to assign this menu item. I'm getting a little to the default item. Okay, so now it'll load, it's going to load the menu item up before we get to the screen, and it should override all that stuff. But if there's no data there, it's not going to crash your app. All right. It's not what the book tells you to do, so sue me. What the book does tell you to do is create a ton of IB outlets. It looks like we're going to make a label, a view. All right, let's just do this, shall we? So first, the outlets. So we're throwing a bunch of outlets in here. I assume if we're throwing outlets in here, I probably need to read the book, but what I'm guessing is we're going to throw labels and image views in there in the storyboard. So we're going to go over to the storyboard. I'm going to find the view, and I'm going to click the plus sign here, and there's going to be a bunch of labels and stuff like that. So let's look in the book and see what they want it to look like. Okay, I found it over here. Page 937, as you can see, the interface above displays a large image view at the top of the screen. So there's image view, label, 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 button. All right, we'll get close. Don't have to be perfect. It's your own artistic creation, isn't it? Plus, so first we'll start with the image view. And I don't know if they want us to, oh gosh, why did I do that? So don't just hit enter, because it'll just fill the whole thing. Image view. Okay. And I want to drop that in here. Is it going to do that? Okay, wait. Throw it there. Okay, good. You know, we'll probably add some constraints to it also, just so that it doesn't look too ugly. But I don't want to get too crazy with the constraints, because that can take hours of your life away. I mean, if it's not your actual final product app, and you're not actually specifically learning about constraints, let's just kind of throw some generic ones in there. So we're throwing a label in there. That's going to be, I'm going to just call it title. I kind of want it to stretch out to, like, say, the middle, roughly speaking, somewhere around there. And it wants another label below it. I'm just going to Control-C, Control-V, throw another label down here, and line it up in some way, shape, or form. They want this color to be like a lighter color, so I'll make it a light text, not light text color, like make it a gray. Oh no, system gray, sure. And again, design can take forever. Copy and paste this, another label over on the other side. Oh my god. Alright, if you ever have problems grabbing things, you can select them over here. And once you select something over there, you can use the, you used to be able to use the arrow keys to move them around, but not anymore. Okay, so let's make sure they're not overlapping much. Yep, they're not overlapping much. Okay, and then it says at the bottom it wants a button. I find this design to be a little lacking, but, you know, because there's this like giant empty space in the middle of the screen there. Maybe they have plans for it later. So they have a button here. Boom. Stretch it out all the way. Oh gosh. Stretch it out. And that is a very tiny button, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And instead of button, we're going to call it add to order. Add to order. They actually want the background color to be something specific. The background color is conveniently at the bottom of the screen here. It's not too confusing. And then we want the actual tint of it, I think, is to be, let's see. Sure, that works. I think, I feel like that text should be a little bigger also, so I'm just gonna bump it up for now. I mean, I'm not like making the final design here, but you know, let's just make it so we can even read it. Okay, there, fine. Great, love it, love it, love it. I'm just going to Command A, so I'm selecting everything, and I'm just adding missing constraints. It'll probably look kind of weird, but at least it won't be off the screen. We can fiddle with constraints some other time. Alrighty, on with the show. So now let's make these connections, because I know that's what it's going to ask us to do next. So I select this top bar here, go over to the little arrowy thing. And now we should, if everything is assigned correctly, have all of our outlets in here to connect. So the add to order button, we'll do this, and that's that outlet. That was not the action, however. That's interesting that we made an outlet and not an action. Is this thing not going to work? I see. There's an IB action down below that I didn't paste in yet. So we're going to get to that later. So for now, that's just the outlet for it. So the outlet for it will change the colors or the text or whatever. Detailed text view. Detailed text label. I see. That's this one. The image view. That's this one. The price, clearly, this one. The search display controller, don't connect that to anything. That's not for us. And the title label is this one. So I'm going to make this a little bit easier to remember. This is not the title. This is the price. And the price is right. No, the price goes over there. I'm going to align it to the left there. And then this is not the title. This is the details. I don't know if they want us to make it multiple lines, but I'm going to do that anyways. So I don't know if the details are long, like maybe there's a lot of details. I'll make it 5 lines. I'm going to actually stretch this. Now, once you start messing with things like that, right, don't forget, it's going to mess with your constraints. So once I do that, I'm actually going to select everything and update the constraints. Hopefully that works. No, didn't like it, so I'm just going to reset to suggested constraints. Okay, it's cool with that. This I might align top. Whatever. Let's not worry about that now, shall we? Okay. Okay, moving back. So let's move back to the controller here. So now we've got the outlets, and they're all connected, nice and pretty. When the view loads, nothing much happens yet. And also, we're not like loading in the details and the price and all that into the screen yet. So we've got to like pass the object over. Boom, here's the object. But then we also have to like update the user interface. And usually the book likes to have this update UI function. So I'm going to guess that's what they're going to do. They're going to make a function, call it update UI. And I don't know if it's going to take anything. I think it's just going to assign things to the user interface. Should I just fast forward this until it's done? Boom. So we get the label, it gets the name, the price, and you see they're formatting the price. That's kind of nice of them. Now we're doing this shared thing again. That's cool. Again, we've got this image stuff down here, and I don't think they went over the image stuff yet in the book, so I'm going to comment that out. Menu item has no member detail text. So let's take a look at the menu item. Menu item has no thing detailed text. I see. We're calling it image item description apparently. Well, that's cool. So I'm just going to change this to item description instead. I think that's what they meant to do. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. And then let's make an IB action so like at least something happens when we press that button. That's really bugging me. I'm just going to print something called order this. Okay. We're going to order the menu item. Order this, so menu item. and we can even just specify order this thing. Okay. Okay. See, it's not connected yet because we just made this function. It didn't, or this, we made this. It is a function. We made this and we didn't connect it. So switch back to the storyboard. Go back over here. Arrows. And then down here at the bottom. Order button tapped. Connect that on touch up inside. Touch up inside. That means your finger touches up inside the button. And let's see if this kind of works. I know it doesn't look happy at me for some reason. What's this problem? That was our old problem. Let's just try and build and run and see if it's happy now. All right, it's building and running. We got some little warnings over here. Don't worry about those for now. Anything yellow, don't worry about it. Oh, that was a pretty good crash. Did you see that? Boom. Lovely. Good news is when it crashes after you build, usually it's saved your work. Almost always. So let's reopen it. That was a pretty cool crash. Okay, let's click the button again and see if we can get it to crash again. I don't think we can, but I think it'll just be fine, but we'll see. Okay, it didn't crash. We're clicking on appetizers. We're clicking on ham and ravioli. Add to order, bam. So order this ham and mushrooms. See, this is interesting. So order this ham and mushrooms ravioli. So it's clearly getting the information of that page, but I don't think we're assigning it to the views properly yet. Let's take a look and see what we're doing here. So we're in the detail window now, right? Title, label, text, menu name. So we forgot to call the update UI here after the view loads. Let's try that again. Appetizers, ham mushroom. Boom, it's $8. House-made ravioli filled with pine nuts, Parmesan ham, and mushrooms served over tomato sauce. Let's get it. Okay, so it orders it, and boom. Wonderful. Now, I'm curious what happens when we get to somewhere that doesn't have anything. Sandwiches, there's no sandwiches. You can't click on anything, that's fine. Desserts, let's try a couple others just to make sure it's really loading correctly. Spaghetti, margarita. It is working perfectly, everyone. I think we're doing good. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I think we're at like 45 minutes on this particular video before it's edited down. That's just for the second one. And we'll continue with part 3 after these messages from our sponsors. Oh, I wish I could be sponsored by Blue Microphones so they could send me a new mic. That'd be so sweet. I mean, not that I don't like the Blue Spark here, but I would love to try the Blue Yeti. I'm just saying, if Blue wants me to review a Blue Yeti for them, send it my way.